Welcome to our Prince Albert and District Chamber of Commerce PA at 5 event. On behalf of our partners, WorkSafe Saskatchewan, just take a quick look around your environment and make sure that if anything happened, you have a clear exit. And we also want to say thank you to our Prince Albert Young professionals. They were the ones who actually helped us start PA at 5, which would have been approximately 20 episodes ago if we had been taping. We've also got a couple of sponsors we have to thank, and that is Rock and Iron Bar and Grill. If we were able to meet live, we would have been meeting in one of their rooms over there. And PA Now. Without them, this event would not be possible at all. The PA at 5 mandate is to educate, inspire, and connect to our leaders within our community. And Mark Poppen with Funky Moose Records is definitely one of those leaders within our community. So my name is Elise Hildebrandt, and I am the CEO of the Prince Albert and District Chamber of Commerce. And welcome, Mark, to our show.
Thanks for having me.
To start it off, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do, a little bit of during the day, but then let's get into the Funky Moose part.
Okay. Well, I am a web designer by trade. I mean, that's not who I am. That's what I do. But web designer by trade. My day job is at Prince Albert Photocopier. I'm the digital or the web services specialist there. And during the evening, I run Funky Moose Records, which is an online record store that I started in 2015.
All right. How did you decide you were going to start it, or what brought on the desire to bring in or start Funky Moose?
So I've been so way back, apparently I told my cousin when I was yay high that I was going to do something in the music industry. Fast forward a whole bunch of years to 2015. After immigrating into Canada, we were picking up a turntable, and I bought a box of records from someone local. And half of the stuff in that box was not my taste, but the other half was good stuff. So I put that in my first, own new collection that I had here. And the other half, I didn't know what to do with it. So I was like, well, I ran my own web design business at that time. And I always had that itch because I also have a background in retail sales. So if you're in web design, you're not actually selling a product. So I was kind of missing that. And I always in the back of my head, I want to sell things. And eventually I'll start an e-commerce store, but I don't know what kind of product to sell. And all of a sudden I look next to my desk and I see a half full box of records. And I was like, I wonder if I can sell those. So I did some research on what was already out there, where one would buy vinyl records online. Found out that in Saskatchewan and even Alberta, Manitoba. Hi, Evan. I see you. Evan's from Manitoba. That there was no real online solution other than stores like Amazon. So I figured, okay, I can probably make these used records work online somehow, but it would also be cool if I could do, the new stuff. So I made a phone call to a distributor. First Google search I did, Vinyl Distributors Canada. First one that popped up, saw a phone number, I called them, and 15 minutes later I was a customer. So it was that simple. And I was like, okay, now what? Now I have to build a website. So,
and you had a little experience in website building, so that was a plus.
Well, exactly. So I have my background in web design, and I have a degree in commercial web design. So I was like, well, this is a great opportunity to put that to the test. And I've built stores on Shopify for customers before, or clients before. And that was immediately my go-to because I love Shopify. Even to this day, the store is running on Shopify. Built a very basic website. And so that distributor sent me a list or a login to their system where I could. Actually, he was very helpful. The rep I had, he sent me a list of the top sellers, and he was like, "These you have to have on your website," and that's a good start. So I did that, and I spent I don't know how many hours adding a bunch of records from Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Prince, all the best-selling artists, I guess. And I planned to open the store June 1st, 2015. And I kind of started building in April. So I had a couple of months to figure out things and how I wanted to do things. And so June 1st came around and I was like, okay, my store is open. And then crickets. I was like, yeah, I knew this.
Well, hold on. They didn't just come running to your online store to buy your records?
No. So in those month and a half or 2 months, I had a placeholder page where I was collecting email addresses from people.
Before Castle.
Yeah. So I gathered all those emails. It wasn't compared to what we have now, not a lot, but it was a handful that I could send my message out to. I did that, and well, the response was like, "Oh yeah, that's cool, nice, good job, and whatever." I'm like, okay, you're gonna buy something now, And then 8 days after the launch, I was out and about, and all of a sudden my phone starts. So when you have the Shopify app on your phone and you get a sale, you hear cha-ching. So I was like, hey, that's a new sound. Look on my phone. Hey, that's the first order. Sweet. So that's how that ball got rolling. The first order came in, and then I was like, okay, now I have to order these records in. So I was talking to the distributor again. I was like, so do you send like 5, or do I have to buy a whole box full? He was like, well, you can buy 1, but shipping is going to kill you. So I would recommend if you have, at least a few in stock, because this was zero planning on my part. This was, if this works, it's fun. If it doesn't, whatever. And so he helped me out with, okay, so this list of bestsellers, I have this, and this in stock. I will send you this box. Don't worry about the payment right now, but pay us like sooner rather than later. Say, okay, I can make that work. So they sent a small box compared to what we have now, a small box of records, put that on the website, and I fulfilled the first order. That was kind of exciting because I had to figure out, okay, now what? I have these records. Now I have to pack them up and send them out. So that was another hurdle. So yeah, that's kind of how the first, the first few interactions came about with customers, and from there it's been a snowball, and it's just went downhill really fast.
So do you remember that feeling when that first cha-ching went and you were like, oh my word? Was it exciting, or was it like, oh yeah, whatever? Or
no, that was I had to look twice. Like, is this a fraud order? Is this real? It must be. And because I had at that time, I think it was something like $75 and up. I would ship for free, and it was an order for just over 75. I'm like, okay, now what? That whole feeling of, okay, this is awesome, something is happening, and then the panic starts. Like, ooh, now what? So yeah, that was an exciting feeling to begin with, but that was very, very soon after. Kind of, it wasn't panic, but it was like, you better pull up your socks because this is actually happening.
So you said do you remember what that first customer ordered?
There was, I just remember there was a 9 Inch Nails record in there, and they ordered 3 other records, and I don't remember what they are, but it was 9 Inch Nails for sure.
So
yeah,
you talked about a little bit of hurdles with sending stuff in the mail because you weren't sure how you were going to send it, or what was that hurdle all about? We're talking with people who maybe are thinking about opening up a Shopify account and they haven't thought about this. So you're going to be the inspiration and educator here.
So actually, just to take a step back, because as I was telling that story, I remembered something. Somebody was asking me, how did you get the name? How did you get to the name Funky Moose Records?
It's on my list.
Oh, well, there you go. So as I was registering for a Shopify account, I needed to fill out, what is your store name? I'm like, I don't know. I didn't think that far yet. So I took a few days to figure things out, and I wrote a few things down on paper. And I wanted it. So you have the brand Red Bull. I mean, everybody knows Red Bull. I wanted something similar and eventually turn that brand into a lifestyle brand like Red Bull. And I wanted it to be Canadian. And Joel in the chat is now mentioning Eric, which is the unofficial name for this moose. But so how I got to the name is I wanted something Canadian. So
and a moose does it.
Right. And I also wanted funky because I'm always listening to funky music and whatever. So I wanted something funky, something music or records or something to that extent. And then I started going through Canadian animals. Of course, the beaver is the first one on the list, but funky beaver is not exactly. So I skipped that one and went to moose, and that kind of stuck. And I registered my web design business, so I knew how to get my business license or my business registration set up and stuff like that. So that wasn't really something I was panicking about. But yeah, so to get back to the first hurdle was finding a distributor, which in hindsight wasn't that much of a hurdle. Then the second hurdle was, okay, now you got to get stock, but without any planning into investment or funding or whatever. I just pulled out a credit card and paid for that box of records. And then the next hurdle was like, okay, order comes in, now you got to ship it out. So I watched a ton of YouTube videos on how record collectors ship their records, because the whole record collecting community is pretty meticulous when it comes to usually higher value records. And I could watch how Amazon packs their record or a bigger distributor or whatever, but I didn't want them to tell me. I wanted the customer to tell me how they wanted to have their records packed. So I started with a few boxes from Staples and bubble wrap and figuring things out as I was going. And then, of course, the hurdle is like, okay, these boxes that you have here, that's fine for 4 records, but this guy ordered 6. Now what? It doesn't fit in the box. So there were, I mean, if we start talking about the hurdles that I've been going through the past 6 years, we'll be here all night. But yeah, so the figuring out, okay, I have this box packed up. Do I just go to the post office and pay there? Or is there a way that I can get a small business account and get a discount on shipping? So that was one. Another hurdle with Canada Post. Luckily here in town, there is a post office and I didn't have to, travel too far. But the next step on that is a lot of people don't realize how expensive shipping is until they actually do it or have to pay for it.
Yeah. You got to send out a couple of items and then you got to put the insurance on and you come back and you're like,
yeah, that was more than I wanted to spend.
I kept that item.
Yeah. So I did that a few times and because I wasn't sure how much to charge for for shipping, and that was all new to me too. So actually, I see a name in the chat pop up. Gerald. Gerald is my business advisor. I highly recommend anyone starting a business or transitioning into a different way of doing business to get either a business advisor like I have with Gerald, or some sort of mentor that has gone through the process of setting up a business. Because Gerald's been he's an old school guy. So when I show up with my laptop and he shows up with his binder of papers, we always clash a little bit, but it's always good. And when I have an idea, it doesn't matter how left field it is, I throw it at him, and then he rationalizes it and brings me down to earth and says, "Okay, this is initially it's a good idea, but you might want to try this instead." So that yeah.
Oh, sorry. No, go on.
So if anyone watching is thinking of starting a business or transitioning into another business, get help. It's not it's you don't have to feel ashamed for asking for help.
Right. I was told one time that there's no need for you to reinvent the wheel. Someone's already created. You just got to color it differently.
That's right.
I'm like, oh, I can do that.
So, yeah, exactly.
That's how we run the chamber. But anyway, not about it's all about you.
Yeah.
So do you keep all of your stock at your house or in a garage or
in the basement? Yeah. For now, we're actually talking about moving out, but that's for later.
Well, that's part of the what next, the 5 years.
Yeah, that's the next hurdle. But yeah, so most of the stock is here. We actually built the website so that it synchronizes with the inventory from our supplier. So when you go to our website, you see 3 statuses. Either it's in stock, which means it's here. It's available from suppliers, which means it's available from our suppliers, or not available. That means that our suppliers also don't have stock. And then when it says not available, you can't place an order for it, because we had quite a few issues in the past where we just had the in stock or not in stock. And when it's not in stock, people can still order. But then some records were back ordered for 3-4 weeks to 3-4 months or longer. And that was just a whole bunch of frustration. So we built a special app to work with the inventory from our supplier and, make it more clear to people what's in stock, what's available, and how long it takes for it to show up.
Gotcha. So the first 6 months pass. What was that like? Like when you got to go nobody wants to talk about taxes, but when you finish that 6 months, were you like, wow, we're good? Or were you like,
yeah. It's funny because Gerald's going to laugh now. I didn't think of that. Those are the things that he reminds me of, and those are the talks that I don't want to hear. But that's another thing. I don't like filing taxes. I don't like doing bookkeeping. So one of the first things I did was hire an accountant, because I'd rather have a professional do what they do best, and I do what I do best. I run a business and they run the numbers, basically. So,
but was it exciting? Were you like, oh my word, 6 months is gone and we did well? Or were you like, I know you didn't plan, but did you have an expectation in your head as to, in 6 months we'll do okay, or decide from there?
Yeah. So my initial thought when I started it, it was, okay, if I sell a record or 2 per month, I'd be happy. Because that would scratch that little itch that I had for my retail sales. But after the first 8 days of nothing, I was like, okay, well, maybe this is not the way to go. And then the first order came in, and then it only took 2 days after that one for the next order to come in. And then it took, I don't know, a month maybe two, where it was almost every day that at least one order came in. So it was, yeah, I don't even remember the first 6 months. I knew it was growing, and I knew I had something, but I didn't know how big it was going to be. And still, I don't know how big this is going to grow. Because if I look at where I was almost 6 years ago to now, it's a world of a difference. Like, the whole basement right now is taken over by the business, and it started in like a corner office. And financially, it's doing pretty well too. So that's
So
yeah.
Has COVID helped? Like, do you find that in the last year, more people are, for example, my sister went and bought a record player, and suddenly my mom is like, and I think it's because I know you. They're like, do you know where you get a needle for the record player? And I'm like, yeah, Mark told me to take a picture, reminder to myself,
take a picture
of the record player, and he'll help me find a needle. Do you find that in the last year, people have turned more towards vinyl records?
So normally around Christmas time is when a lot of turntables are bought, especially the ones that you can get off the shelf at Canadian Tire. Pro tip: don't buy those unless unless you buy them just to get your feet wet and thinking about, okay, am I going to be a record collector, or is this just a phase? Then you can buy those, play records on it. But as soon as you can, upgrade to an actual turntable. But that's a story for another time. So that usually happens around Christmas time. A lot of those turntables are being given for Christmas because they're affordable, and it's a fun thing to play with. And then a year ago when COVID hit, I seriously thought that, okay, this is the end of this business, because COVID hits, suppliers shut down. I probably have to shut down. But luckily, because our suppliers have warehouses where also essential products are being shipped from, they could stay open. And because we are in Saskatchewan, because we're an online-only store, we were also allowed to stay open, which helped a lot because a lot of bigger record stores, brick-and-mortar stores, they had to shut down because of the pandemic. And the record collectors that are out there, I don't want to call them addicts, but they're addicts. And they still need their records. So they found Funky Moose Records, and last year was our best year yet.
So what's the furthest you've ever shipped one of your records to?
Oh, probably Sydney, Australia.
And when you look at your sales, do most of them come from Saskatchewan, Canada, the States, or beyond?
So I would say 95% of sales go to Canada, and most of those will go to the Toronto area, just because there are many people there. The East Coast is also very popular, the Maritimes. Saskatchewan lags a little behind, but that's probably because of the number of people in our province. Calgary is a big city that we ship to a lot. But I think it was 2 years ago where we hit a milestone where we shipped to every province and territory in the country. So none of it was a tough cookie to crack, but somebody placed an order there, and shipping is expensive to Nunavut.
Do you have a wall map and it's like pin it, like, oh, look at how far we've gone, or look where we're going now?
It's actually on the website. It's an interactive map of the last 150 orders, and it has a dot on where each order went.
I'm laughing at some of the questions over here.
I know. I'm trying to keep up a little bit. Yep.
So Joel wants to know a good record player would be a what if you're just starting? And I know that you can play a record with a $20 bill because I watched one of your
That's right.
videos. So, if you guys got a turntable but no needle, take out that $20 bill.
Yeah.
We'll put the link in the video that you can watch it later.
Don't actually play your records on a $20 bill. But what is a good turntable to start with? I'm probably going to be a little bit biased because we're an Audio-Technica dealer, but Audio-Technica LP60X, that's probably the bare minimum that I would recommend. But I know where Joel is going with this because we are also giving away an Audio-Technica turntable at this moment. So if you go to our YouTube channel, you'll see the first video is our giveaway. It's an Audio-Technica LP120X.
Tell Joel just to wait on a moment. We're going to chat about that in a bit.
Yeah, we will. Yeah. So yeah, but looking at the questions, George, do you buy used records? Yes, we do.
Best one you've ever found used, or you don't take a look at that? Do records have value? So for example, I was at the thrift store the other day and I could buy 3 of them for $1. And I'm like, ooh, I wonder if there's anything amazing in here. I didn't. They were all German. So I'm like, this is of no value to me, but.
Well, usually the ones at Value Village and thrift stores, not so much. The gems are usually when you go to a farmer's house. Like, okay, this story is about Jeremy. Jeremy is our business partner that buys used records, and he ended up at some farmer's place, and because I don't even remember how they got in touch, but Jeremy went over there. And the farmer goes, I have a box of records. What do you give me for it? Jeremy's like, I have no idea. He flipped through the records and he didn't recognize any of them. He's like, I'll give you $30. Farmer goes, sure, sounds good. Perfect. He brings it home. Jeremy goes through the records again. And he one record he notices is like, this is Chad Allen and the Guess Who, which is the band before the Guess Who. So he took that out and he's like, I wonder how much this is worth. So he started doing his research and see what it's worth. And he came over right away. He says, you might want to check this one out because I don't know if I'm believing what I'm seeing. Okay, whatever. So we Google it and I do a double take and it was like, does this really say $300? And
what?
Yeah, so $300 for this record? I don't know. It's hard to believe, but we'll add it to the website and see what happens. Added it for $300. And we were both thinking that, okay, if this sells, we will probably give a huge discount on it because nobody's going to buy this for $300. But it was on the website for about a month and a half. And I get an email from someone in Spain saying that, I see that you have this record on the website. Can you take some pictures? Because I want to verify the quality of the record and how it's graded and whatever. Like, yeah, no problem. So I took a few pictures and I was like, is this guy actually going to pay for this? But, take a few pictures, send it out. And I never expected to hear from him again. So he replies and, oh, that looks excellent. I'm waiting for my next paycheck and then I'll place the order. Okay, well, seeing is believing. So we'll see how it goes. And yep, the 15th order came in for a $300 record plus $40 shipping to Spain. And away it went.
Oh my word. You didn't want to keep it? Like be like, oh my word. What if it doubles in value over the next?
Well, that's the thing. The record itself is not that rare. I mean, it's tough-ish to find, but we've had the same record in our bins after that. But that one was the condition it was in. That's what drove up the value so much. So the ones we had after that had a lower grade. They were just average kind of thing. So those went for a lower amount of money. But yeah, I don't know. If I keep all the cool records that come through the bins here, I got to move out.
Is this where I can ask you how many records you have?
Yeah, you can ask that. Yeah.
So
So the luxury is that the inventory is here, and we just pick from the inventory and play whatever record is available at that time. And if it sells, it sells. Unless it's a record that I really want, then it makes a sidetrack in my personal collection.
Mark did admit in one of their YouTube episodes he hates it when people ask it, and I heard it and I thought, yeah, sorry about that, Mark. That's coming up in your interview.
Yeah.
Megan had a quick question here. How do I know what to buy for a record player? You want to answer that?
It depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking, like I said earlier, if you're looking to get your feet wet into, am I going to be a record collector? Am I going to listen to records? Then you can buy the ones that you can buy at Canadian Tire or whatever, or the LP60X, like I mentioned. But I would highly recommend, if you are serious about this collecting thing, then there are a bunch of YouTube videos out there that'll explain what a good turntable is. But the easiest way to recognize at least a decent turntable is if it has a counterweight on the back of the tone arm. So the tone arm is where you have the needle, then the tone arm, and that goes to the rest of your turntable kind of thing. It's on that where it pivots on the turntable. So if on the back there's an adjustable weight on there, then you might have a decent a good enough turntable to start with. And I mean, you can buy turntables from 150 to, I don't know. I know people that have $30,000 audio setups, and their turntable is as much as my car. So what's a good turntable? I think that's pretty subjective.
So you started Shopify.
Shopify, yep.
You're still getting it out. So we've moved along. Just before COVID, you decided to venture into another area, YouTube.
Yeah.
And are you okay if we bring in your, do we get to call him the comedian when you two do your YouTube channel stuff?
He calls himself the good looking one on the YouTube stuff. So yeah, maybe get him in and I can call him out on that. Hey, wake up. He's actually asleep.
So we're going to bring in Joel Gadet, and Joel is a friend of Mark, and they started working together. Here in the chamber community, you'll recognize Joel from being one of the business partners with Prime America. And I'm going to do this embarrassing thing and say, hey, Joel, unmute yourself. You now owe me $5 because I can't believe I had to tell you that, because you've been doing this for a while.
No doubt, right? I was like, so I'll be honest, I got like the side screen here where I was watching you guys, and then I have it open on my phone because I needed to shut it down on my screen because I knew I was coming on the call. So I was actually looking down at my phone and didn't realize that you had let me in the Zoom call because I was just all over the place, scatterbrained.
I just thought you were trying to show off the hat you were wearing.
Yeah, sure. Let's call it that.
Doesn't it have Eric on it?
It sure does. I don't know if that's what we're going to call it, though.
According to the poll, I don't think so, but we'll see.
Yeah, so we're fishing around for ideas on the legit certified name for the moose. I think that's up on Twitter, maybe?
Let's see what the crowd has to say, or maybe they've got suggestions while we're doing this. They got about a little bit of time to put in some thoughts.
Yeah, here, I'll stand up and I'll show you the moose, and then you can give it a name.
Man, you got it in the back corner there over your right shoulder.
Yeah. So
here, poster.
Here. So, yeah, Joel is my the good looking one on our podcast. And we actually have the latest video we've done was with a band, and one of the band members was very adamant about calling the moose Eric.
12 years today.
12 years today is a band from Toronto. Pretty awesome guys to hang out with. And
yeah, they're definitely funny. You know what, Mark? I felt like like their dynamic, I get a lot of similarities between you and I. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like it's just
Because
those guys are goofy, man.
because
They were fun.
we keep throwing each other under the bus, and so did they. So that was
Well, I'm gonna move you guys backwards a little bit here.
oh yeah.
So you've got a YouTube channel. Whose idea was it? Yeah, I paused them both.
It was it was the channel. Mark, I'm just stuttering. So Mark started the YouTube channel like some years back, kind of when you started the business, right?
Yeah.
But I think throughout the course, like Mark just got too busy with, like, when you have a channel like that, you got to constantly be putting content on it, right? Mark just didn't have the time to do that. So it kind of like was up in the clouds on hiatus for a little bit until we kind of came up with the idea for the show. And then it kind of reactivated that a little bit.
So Joel and I, when we hang out together, we usually talk about music or music related stuff. And we happen to talk about, maybe we should do something with YouTube. And Joel is an avid fan of podcasts like the Joe Rogan podcast and what is it? YMH. There you go. He's showing his sweater.
Oh yeah. I got to say something to get it on me, right?
Yeah.
Is it working? Testing. Yeah. Okay.
So we kind of decided like, okay, what if we just sat down and talk about music while we have a camera on us and just put that on YouTube and see what happens. Which we did. And the first few episodes were
interesting.
Yeah, that's the word. Because we had no clue what we were doing, what we wanted to do. We just sat down on the couch here. That's why we called the show the Sit Down, because we sat down and talked about it. We sat down and put the camera on us, grabbed our laptops and see what was new in the music industry and just discussed it.
That was, you know what, that was like literally, it was like an hour before we would hit record. We'd be sitting there looking like on a Google feed, like what's going on in music this week. Like that was, we would like dedicate our show to what we scrounged up the hour previous to it.
And we kept saying, oh, we should probably read this article before we say something about that.
We were just basically saying our opinions on the headline of the article. Didn't have a clue what we were talking about.
Which kind of ended up as a train wreck, but it was fun.
Oh, man.
So then episode, what is it, 14?
Yes.
We got an email from an artist from Whitehorse, and she emailed, "Love your show. Can I be on as a guest?" And Joel and I were like, "Yeah, let's figure out how to do that." So, so we said yes. Fired up Zoom. Found out that the artist, didn't have a camera or anything, so it was Joel and me on Zoom, or was it Zoom? I don't remember how we did it, but it was us on video.
I think we were using Zoom for video and Zencaster for audio or something.
Something like that, yeah. So you were looking at Joelle and me on video, and we were just listening to her on audio, which was a little awkward, but
yeah. Well, we didn't know what we were doing. Like and you know what? Even to this day, I would venture to say that we still don't know what the heck we're doing. Like we're just hanging out. Like that's really all it is.
Yeah. So
understood. We practiced 5 times today to make sure this went smooth when we started, and I still messed it up, but I don't know what I did to mess it up. So hence the reason everyone had
you know what,
switch over.
That's
story of our life.
And well, that's exactly it. And you know what? Yeah, man, we run into that every Friday. Every Friday, there's some kind of little hiccup. So it was like, why bother practicing it? Let's just get on, hit record, and away we go. And we've evolved it recently into doing live episodes. So now basically, like typically we start the show at like 8 p.m., but we're going live at 7:30 so that anybody who comes on live can see all these little technical difficulties and hiccups that we're going through, considering the camera is not one of the hiccups that we have to go through, right? And then, when we edit it for the Monday's episode, like all that stuff is cut out. So it's kind of like a little behind the scenes bonus featurette, I guess, if you tune in live.
Yeah. But, so the last episode was one of those where my camera decided that it didn't want to work with my computer. So I figured, well, maybe my computer needed a reboot. So I reboot my computer, and then my computer decides, oh, let's do updates for 35 minutes.
Let's take 15 minutes to update. Yeah.
So you're on episode YouTube. I'm coming back.
Yeah.
So you got this channel. You had the first person, episode 14. She's called in and said, hey, I want to be part of your show. Did you have more people call you, or because we're now on episode, I think we were talking about it, Mark, episode 55?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, we aren't. You guys are on episode 55. So how did you go from 14 to 55?
It was
glitches.
Hustle.
That's just technical.
It's the fake it till you make it thing, I think, right, Mark? Maybe? No.
Well,
well, like so like Paris, is it Paris Pick or Paris? Yeah, Paris Pick was on episode 14. And I think there's a few episodes in between there that there's nobody. It's just Mark and I still trying to figure out what the heck we're doing. And you know what? It all just kind of, it's fallen into place. And that's the snowball that Mark was talking about, where he said it's going downhill. I would like to say that the snowball's going uphill because things are going good. But going back to the guests, like what happened was I remembered Teresa Sakurika from like a Canadian Idol what was that, 10, 15 years ago. Like I remember that. And honestly, back in high school, I remember running into her outside a pub in Saskatoon, like just randomly, and it's Teresa Sakurika. And like everybody was like in awe about it, right? She was the like Miss Popularity, right, at the time. And I just remembered that. And it was like, I ran into this girl once upon a time. And honestly, I just reached out to her and I'm like, hey, Teresa, like, you probably don't remember me. Like we ran into each other outside a bar. We were probably both drunk, whatever. Right. That was it. That was our, like, how we know each other. We're doing this show. Would you be interested in coming on? She was game. She was like, yeah, let's do it for sure. So it was like, holy crap. I just like booked Teresa Sakurika on the show. And Mark had no clue who she was because he's not from Canada. So I showed him some like YouTube clips and explained to him who that was. So we ended up getting her on, but while we were lining up that show, Earl Pereira from the Steadies, he used to be the bass player for Wide Mouth Mason. Do you remember who Wide Mouth Mason is, Elise?
No.
You don't remember them?
So here's my musical ability. I can hear a song 100 times and it still doesn't stick. But you can play it and I can sing it. So I'm not your,
Right.
No.
Okay. So anyways, there's a band that hit it pretty big back in the day called Wide Mouth Mason. They were originally from Saskatoon. And there was like once upon a time, long time ago, through a mutual friend, was having a birthday party in Bellevue, Saskatchewan here, and had gotten the Steadies to play. So the lead singer for the Steadies is the old bass player for Wide Mouth Mason. This is his new band, right? When they first started. So anyways, the Steadies come out and they rock out for my friend's birthday party. It was an awesome night, like awesome party. And I remembered that. So I was like, I reached out to my friend and I was like, hey, like, do you have Earl's contact? I want to reach out to him and see if I can get him on the show. Just like total crapshoot, right? That's really all it was. And Earl was game. He was down. So that's kind of how we line those up. And then of course, like the adrenaline's going and it's like, holy crap. Like I got the bass player for Wide Mouth Mason and Teresa Sakurika. And then it's like, who else? Oh, we're going to hit up Nickelback and Theory of a Dead Man and Metallica. And we're going to get Godsmack on and like just fired up. And none of those people ever answer me when I message them, for the record, but not for lack of trying. But so it just, it really has been snowballing. That's I think how the origin of the guests kind of started. There's Brendan Baker out of Calgary. That one's an interesting story too. So I remember this is all back in the day. My mom was Noreen Guedet. Like she has passed on a few years ago, but mom was very big in the Country North show in Prince Albert. I still have the videos of them too, like 2099, 2001 and 2. All that kind of stuff. Mom would sing there. In the last few years, she did like the behind the scenes kind of stuff, helped organize it. Anyways, getting off track here. When
come on back.
One of her birthday parties. Yeah. One of her birthday parties, some friends were there and this kid was there playing the guitar, right? And I was just in awe of how talented this guy was. He was younger than I was, and he played an original song, and I was just like, holy crap, like this, like it blew my mind. It really did. Never saw the guy again. So fast forward to this, and I'm telling a friend of mine in Prince Albert about the podcast that we're doing, and I wanted to try and book a guest, and she's like, well, I taught a student who is like big into music, and he's in Calgary now, and he's a really good musician, and I saw him play live in Calgary, and I just happened to ask him, well, is his name Brendan Baker? And she's like, yeah, like, how did you know? And I was like, get out of here, like, no way. I was like, do you have his contact info? Like, I'll reach out. I haven't seen that guy since like mom's backyard that one time. So then that's how we lined up Brendan, which from Electric Religious, which was pretty awesome. It just, it's really from memory of people in passing throughout life. It's like, it's really weird how it all kind of happened.
But then it's also with the episodes that we're doing, other people are seeing it. So I don't know if Evan is still in the chat, but Evan is the lead singer for Northern Royals, and that's a band out of Winnipeg. And he reached out and said, hey, we watch your show. Can we be on your show? And of course we said yes. And we had them on the show. That was technically not
technical difficulties.
Yeah, that was, yeah. But it was very fun to hang out with them. And actually, now that we're talking about Evan and Northern Royals,
got some breaking news.
We have some breaking news, yeah. Because
is this where if I was really technical, I'd put the breaking news symbol right above my head right here?
Yeah, exactly.
I'll edit it in later.
Okay. So we were hanging out with Evan and his band, and we got to talk a lot more. And Joel and his wife are actually became big fans of Northern Royals. Do you want to take this intro here,
so
Joel?
Sure. Like it was, so Janelle and I
itching.
Oh man, once you get me rolling, you'll have to just kick me out. But yeah, so no, just after the episode with them, listening to their music and stuff, and really I enjoyed it. Like I just could hear and feel potential. Not like I'm any kind of specialist in what music should sound like at all. I just really enjoyed it, right? And so did my wife. So because of the podcast, I knew the contact information. So I just called up Evan, and I'm like, hey, Evan, like you had mentioned before, you were definitely interested in like pressing some records. And, like I see the potential in the band, and I want you to know that Janelle and I will back you up 100%. Like if you need help, if we can help in any way to make this happen, like just say the word. Like that's how much faith I have in you guys. And of course he was down. He was like, yes, let's do this. So what I did, because of my connection with Mark, I call up Mark and I'm like, listen, like listen deeper into these guys and tell me if you think there's something here and what we can do. And Mark, just as big of a fan as I am. So long story short is we ended up doing like a distribution contract with them, where it's going to be like we're going to help them release their EP on vinyl. And it's going to be their first vinyl, and it's also going to be like Funky Moose's official first vinyl as well. So we're kind of
you got to back up. You're talking to a bunch of us who know nothing about music.
Nothing about.
I heard the word EP, press, and vinyl. You want to put that in layman terms?
Okay, so this will be Mark's turn here.
Okay, so an EP stands for extended play. You have the LP, that's a long play, that's a full album, and an EP is an extended play, which is between a single and an LP. So they have 5 songs that they want pressed on a record.
And pressed means what?
Like recorded to
actually,
vinyl.
That's no, but the it's an actual pressing of a record, because that's how records are made. It's a vinyl puck that gets put into an actual press, like a press, and
like a mint press, like if you were making money.
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly.
like a hydraulic press. Yeah,
exactly like it.
Like
yeah.
Put a hockey puck between 2 cylinders, and the 2 cylinders flatten out that hockey puck. That's what a vinyl record is.
Yep, exactly. So they were interested in getting the record done. So we've been talking to a few record pressing plants in Toronto, because unfortunately we don't have any closer to us aside from Calgary. But Calgary, the Calgary plants were kind of on the expensive side. So we signed the deal with them that we were going to do the pressing and distribution of their record, and that's coming out. I'm not sure when.
it's coming out when it comes in, basically. So
yeah, because there's a bit of a delay on pressing right now. Normally there's a lead time of about 6 to 8 weeks when you order a vinyl run. This time it's more like 13 weeks or something like that. So whenever it comes in, that's when the EP is getting released.
We'll be promoting the heck out of that when that comes in. So we're very excited about that.
Hold on. So I know currently on your YouTube channel, you're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and then they win. What number are you at currently?
Oh, that's putting us on the spot.
Come on, guys. I know I'm at 77. I'm only trying to get to 100. So if you're bored and you have nothing to do, please go down and subscribe to our chamber channel. But Mark has got something a little more exciting.
We're sitting at
880.
Ooh, and when you get to 1,000, you get
an Audio-Technica LP 120X. That's a turntable. We have a gift card, some swag, a record cleaning brush, and when we hit 1,000, we're going to add something else to that package.
Yeah, it was basically So I'm
just wondering when you're going to give away one of your first records that you have put your label on. What do we need to get you to hand one out?
That's maybe that poll for the Moose's name. I wrote some names down here that were in the chat. Someone said Freddie, Carmen, Marty.
I'm a big Queen fan, so Freddie is definitely on my list.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
That's going over to Instagram. You'll create a reel, and then people will vote, and it'll become a poll, and that's how.
That's exactly what we want. That's exactly what we want to do with it. Yeah, for sure. What was I going to say? I was going to talk about
hang on. Just to go back to the Moose thing. Don't call him Morris or Maurice, because those are already existing.
They've been patented.
Yeah,
that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and Bullwinkle.
Yeah. Well, that's
obvious. No, I was going to say about the YouTube channel. So, I need to throw it out here too. I don't want people thinking that we're making a whole bunch of money doing this. If we're being totally honest, you guys, we have maybe coughed up money out of our pockets to be able to do this on a weekly basis. There's been $0 generated from the YouTube channel. Just for the record, I'm going to throw that out there.
So
if there are a little bit,
if there are any PA businesses that want to sponsor our podcast,
right. Where do we sign?
I do have to say that Audio-Technica has been helping us out a lot, because these microphones that we have here, those are given to us by them, and that turntable is also
sponsored.
Not fully sponsored, but they definitely helped with the purchase of that one. So
right. So that was the whole beginning of the giveaway on the YouTube channel, right? So basically, to shoot you straight, to be able to generate any type of nickels and dimes off a YouTube channel, you need an X amount of subscribers as well as X amount of watch time throughout the course of the day. Yeah.
So for those who are just new or are just discovering what YouTube is all about, Mark and I have been chit-chatting back and forth. So us as the chamber, we're trying to get to 100. We're so close. And then that allows us to change the name at the top, so you don't get a whole bunch of letters. We'll be able to call it the Prince Albert Chamber. Now, Mark and Joel are on their way to 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of watched video, right?
That's right. That's the bare minimum that you need to make $5, I think. It's not $5, but it's not anything.
That's the threshold where you can start advertising. and whatever revenue you're going to make off those advertisements, that could be $1 a month, or it could be $5,000 a month.
Right. So yeah, that's the bare minimum. So those are the two, like that's the X and Y factor, I guess, that you need to start making money on YouTube. So instead of us trying to like be scatterbrain and how do we get subscribers and watch time and content and all this, we were like, let's just tackle one at a time. Because once we get one of them, then we'll focus on the other one. So it's like, all right, well, how do we get 1,000 subscribers? And
just give some free stuff.
I like telling Mark to give everything away all the time with promo codes and all that kind of stuff. He hates it.
Does that. Yeah,
but that's kind of that was it. It was like, why don't we do a raffle, like some type of race where we can start with like actually that was the conversation. Well, what do we give away, right? Like, because if we're just doing Funky Moose sweaters and hats, like you're not going to get 1,000 people for a hat. Like that's just not going to happen. So it was like, well, what's the big item on the website, right? Well, it's a record player. Like that's what we deal with. So why don't we start with a record player? And so Mark reached out to Audio Technica and said, hey, like, I think this is kind of what the idea is. Would you guys be willing to like back us up and help us try and do this? So they were on board with it too. Like Mark mentioned before, they helped us out with the microphones for the podcast, because these little ones on the headsets just weren't cutting it. Didn't we have? Oh yeah, we had those little clip-on.
Yeah.
Like so that lasted like 4 episodes and then they crapped out.
Yeah. Don't buy cheap Chinese microphones.
Right. But yeah, Audio
I have an idea
Technica.
to how you can get the hours watched, because again, Mark and I were chatting and I'm like, hey Mark, we're at this. And he's like, ooh, you got more watched hours than I do. And I'm like, yeah, but I only have this many subscribers. So, the battle is on. Not really.
Yeah, so from what I understood is that live episodes don't count towards your watch hours, but we've done a few lives and the watch hours have gone up. So I'm not sure if I read the wrong article, but we might have to do some more lives.
Right.
The information just changed since you read it from one time to the other.
Probably, yeah.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
But that's just it. Like, so even if the live episodes that we're doing don't count, we're still like chopping that up and using that as our weekly episode. Do you know what I mean? Like I mentioned before, we're cutting out the behind the scenes stuff and putting the actual episode up on the Monday. So I think
you mean the cutting I'm going to have to do today to put it all together?
That's right.
Yeah, like that. You leave that on the floor and just post the good stuff, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was kind of like where the raffle came into place. There is like, well, let's start with getting the 1,000 subscribers as a bare minimum, right there too. So I think so far it's working. I think when it started, we were sitting at around 300 maybe that Mark had built in like the 5 years that the business has been up, and we're up to 880 in like a few weeks, 3 weeks, I think. Hey, 4 weeks.
Yeah, it's a month, I think, something like that.
That first week was just ridiculous. Like it shot up so fast, and then it's kind of been a lull there. It's just kind of sitting, which is fine. Like we're not complaining at all. But I really want to do the raffle so that we can do something else, like a poll for the name, maybe.
I think we could win a Northern Royals record once you get to a next milestone.
Yep.
Oh,
yeah, we're already talking about with Evan. We're gonna come up with something like a special prize package with a signed record and a Northern Royals hat or shirt
merchandise,
or something like that.
Yep. Definitely. Yeah, we've got a few tricks up our sleeve, I think, for 2021 coming up relatively soon, actually.
Ooh, you got another announcement?
I think we've got like a few announcements, actually.
Mark, do you allowed to go ahead?
Oh, yeah. Mark knows I'm unhinged.
Yeah, Joel and I actually had a call this afternoon, and he was like, so is there anything I can't mention? So he has a list of no-goes.
Another breaking news notice.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely something that we're really excited with is Skull Creek Studios out of Saskatoon. So that is like Liat Hansen, another Prince Albert boy, and Aspen Beverage from like League of Wolves, right? Their studio in Saskatoon. We were on a call with Aspen and we were asking him if there was a way how we can work together, right? Long story short is they're totally open to like them being our first. We were talking about on location episodes, right? So I guess long story short is Skull Creek Studios is going to be our first on location episode. We've got that in the books for beginning of April. Of course, we're going to follow COVID restrictions, like considering if there's a way where we can do it like legally, we will. If we can't, it'll just get put on the back burner for now. But in booking that on location episode, there's like where we can potentially refer an indie band to Skull Creek Studios to maybe record an album or whatever. They can also refer bands to us to have on the show, like an affiliate, right?
Okay. Question. What is an indie band?
Indie means unsigned. So if a band has a record label that is, for example, Warner, Universal, or Sony, then they're no longer indie. If they can still be signed by a record label, but that record label cannot be owned by the big three.
Gotcha. So Northern Royals will remain an indie band until such time that they're signed by one of those three companies.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So and basically, like that's the big news. Like the meeting that we had with Aspen, it was more of like Skull Creek Studios we're all trying to do the same thing, right? Help and promote the underdog, basically, right? Instead of promoting Nickelback and Metallica and all these big honchos, like let's get the people coming up from ground zero, and how can we help them? Like money's the bottom line. Nobody's got money, and that's what a musician needs to be able to blast everything out there, right? So with the podcast, we're able to help them promote and spread the word of who these up and comers are. And that's the same thing that Skull Creek Studios is trying to do as well, right? So the whole concept / idea is to just everybody working together. Like, why do people and businesses need to be in competition? I think if everybody pools together, especially in like the music and arts industry, like why is there so much competition? The whole concept and idea is if we can just work together and not try and step on anybody's toes. And like, if I can help in this way, I will. If you can help there, let's do this. And then promote those up and coming musicians. Like I'm really excited to work with Aspen, like super stoked.
Yeah. And Evan is still in the chat, and he explained indie is short for independent. Thanks, Evan.
Yes.
Hey-o.
I had to ask Mark a while back,
yeah.
What on earth does indie mean? I'm like, I'm familiar with Bollywood and the movie, so I'm like, is that the same concept in records, but you just call it indie music?
No.
So he explained it.
Yeah.
Right. Isn't it? The movies would be like what? IFC, like the Independent Film Channel kind of thing. Right?
Yeah.
Basically, they're paying for it out of their pocket.
Don't get
hold on, Mark's going to quickly correct this.
Don't go. No, I want to say don't get Joel started on movies, because that's another hour.
That's what's all behind me.
Did you have any other great announcements you'd like to make over? Or do we all have to wait now to see what's up and coming?
I think we'll have to come back on and announce some more later.
Right. And I think people, if they just want to, you know what, honestly, to enter the draw, go to the channel. There's a specific way to enter the draw. It's not just, don't just tune in and you're entered. You have to.
Yeah. Go to the channel. The first video you see, click on that, because that's where we explain what we want you to do.
So I did your instructions and I put it out across my Facebook, and I'm like, hey guys, you got to go over like this page and I'll get a record player. And one of my friends comes back and he's like, do you know that if any recommended somewhere to go to buy? And I'm like, no, you missed the point. I need you to like the page, tag, blah, 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 do all the instructions that are required. I'm looking to win the record player. I don't have to pay for it.
That's awesome.
Yep.
But yeah, so, I mean, like we would just, all in all, if you're a fan of music, and I'm going to add too, that there's only some people who play music on the podcast. Like we're not interviewers at all.
No.
Like we're not radio show hosts at all. We're just Mark and Joel from Funky Moose Records. And we just want to hang out with these musicians. And there have been some episodes where we don't even talk about music for like an hour and a half into the episode. Then we maybe bring it up for like 5 or 10 minutes. Like we're seriously, these are people that we just want to get to know.
I caught that. I watched your guys' interview with Chris Henderson.
Yeah.
And I sat there and killed myself laughing because they're sitting there and talking about not Twitter, Tinder, and about swiping. And all of a sudden you went on to talk about how you met your wives and all the rest of it. And I'm like, well, this isn't about music at all. I was killing myself laughing. So it was great.
He's teaching.
Yeah.
The last couple of episodes we did with Jordan Pollard, her too. She that show was how long? 2.5 hours or something. It
was close to 3 hours. Yeah, close to 3 hours.
We chatted about everything but music, and then her music we kind of talk about it here and there.
We closed the episode.
At the end, she plays a couple of songs for us. So
nice.
that was fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Fun. That is our format.
Yeah, we don't have a format, and that's on purpose because we don't want, because bands can go on radio and have their 5-minute interview and so you're producing a new record. Yeah. Oh yeah. What's your favorite song on there? Oh yeah. Cool. And then 5 minutes is done and you don't actually know what's happening. So what we want to do is we envision us sitting down at a bar or a restaurant or a pub or whatever, and it's kind of like a first date where you get to meet each other. That's what we're trying to do.
Right. Yeah. What's your writing process and where do you get your inspiration from? Like, I don't care. I just love the music you're putting out there and I just want to hang out with you, man. Like that's all it is.
It comes up every once in a while, but it's not what we're going for.
Yeah. I want to know if you're interested in like
movies
and conspiracy theories and movies and space and time and I want to have a real conversation.
Yeah.
Well, I would love to stay on for 3 hours, but I don't think they'll let me. So what I'm going to do is just have you guys come back on in another time.
Sure.
But I do have rapid fire questions where Mark gets like 3 seconds to answer.
Oh, I hate those. Okay.
Oh, come on. It's not like you don't do that to the musicians you bring on. All right.
Never.
We'll start off easy. Ready?
Okay.
Favorite color?
Orange.
Favorite food?
Chinese.
Favorite group?
I like music.
Well, yeah.
Oh, Queen.
We are talking about the music industry here.
Queen.
Favorite record?
Queen live in Montreal.
The first thing that you and your family are going to do once the COVID restrictions lift, and I don't mean like the 10 people we get to have in our household, but where they actually lift.
Go to a concert.
Do you have one in mind that you want to go to?
Well, Joel and I were supposed to go see Black Keys and the Junos. So I hope by the time the restrictions are lifted, that's where we can go again. But I guess we'll see.
And I think that's a really good spot where we're gonna leave that off there.
Awesome.
I think it was good. I just want to say thank you so much for being a part of our PA at 5 here in Prince Albert. And,
thanks for having us.
Mark, you may get a phone call going,
Sure.
How do I edit all of this together? But thank you to our crowd for watching and bearing with us while we did go through those technical difficulties. And when this goes live, there will be the link over for the Funky Moose Records, and hopefully we can help you get up to the 1,000 subscribers and the 4,000 hours of watching. Because, well, actually, if I could beat you to that, I'd be okay with it. Just a friendly competition.
It's on.
Race is on.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody, for being a part of our show.